Hi, Richard. Very happy to have you here today. It took us a while to schedule this.
Indeed, it did. Yeah, I think we postponed it maybe a couple of times, maybe three. I don't know. But yeah, we're finally here, ready to go.
Finally, I'd like to talk with you about your job as a consultant, your job prior to being a consultant. We can talk about F1. We can talk about how you teach Asana, the approach that you have, the big deployment that you have at the moment with us, and talk about your favorite productivity trick as well. And anything that you want to talk about as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm sure it's going to be interesting, so everyone stick around, and off we go.
Yeah. What's actually funny about you is it feels like you appeared out of nowhere on the forum one day, and then you instantly became so good, and you had so many content. You've built the, I think the data limit post is the one of the biggest one you've created pretty quickly. You became a forum leader almost instantly. So yeah, what happened? Where were you before?
Right, yeah, that's quite funny. I was talking to Brian Bennett. Hi, Brian, by the way. He actually said the same thing. It's like you came out of nowhere. And I guess I was, I've been on the forum for quite a while. So I was, as I said, I was kind of quiet lurker. I was kind of checking things out. So, and then, yeah, I started just posting. As you said, I posted that technical limitations post. And that kind of got popular. I think it grabbed your attention as well. And that's how we kind of met.
Yeah, I was jealous. I was like, I should have done this post. It's so good.
So my background is in architecture. I've been an architect for 20 good years. I've always had a passion and a love for architecture since I was a kid. I think since my dad, I asked him, so who builds buildings? Who designs them? He's like, oh, an architect. I'm like, that's what I want to be.
Nice.
So I guess one of the lucky ones. You know what you want to be, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think some point in 2017, actually, I was working on a very large infrastructure project, 10 metro stations in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. And I got to a point where I was just flooded with emails, flooded with WhatsApp messages, and I was just like, there must be a better way to work. I can't do this. And I started Excel trackers and all this. I'm like, someone's must have thought of something better out there. And so I looked, that's where I obviously discovered Asana. I did look into other competitors as well. But I'd
love to know which other tool you looked at and what you thought and why you actually chose Asana. And also how different your life would be if you sticked with Monday or ClickUp.
This sounds like a what if episode. What if Richard went for Monday? Monday was one of those. It did look pretty neat. I think it had something like dashboards and graphs that I was interested at the time that Asana didn't. And I had a friend who actually recommended these at the time. Reich was also on the list, looked a bit stiff. And I just liked, I think Asana I've just found it a lot more intuitive. And I think multi-homing was a key feature that was like my first light bulb moment. I was like, oh, okay. And because I really needed to cross-collaborate amongst teams. We're working on different design units and stations. So yeah, I just started building. I just went insane, started building everything, set it up, just onboarded my team, learned it with them, I guess, along with them as well. So that was my first, I guess, touch with sort of teaching someone or onboarding, I guess, my first onboarding experience.
Did you know at the time that people actually did that for a living?
No, definitely not. No. But I was surprised, I guess, when I found out. And I think one of the first ones was you. Paul Miners is all over YouTube, obviously. And I guess that was my first sort of, okay, that could be something I could look at, but as a part-time thing, which it turned out to be. So just going back to Asana, when I, like 2017, we're talking like before timeline, before rules, before dashboards. all this fancy stuff we have today, forget it. We didn't have any of that back then. And but it was just so intuitive, even without all that. I think even we didn't have grid view. It was just like kind of 4 columns. We can only have 4 custom fields. Remember that? You couldn't add.
It does ring a bell. So did you only have like assign due date and project? You couldn't customize anything?
And I had up to 4 custom fields, I remember.
Okay.
Because I remember I had 4 stations and I had to bring up 4 and then hide the others. So it was just like nuts. But anyway, you still work around it. And I think that's the key thing with Asana. If you enjoy it and you like it, you'll always find a workaround to, get around any limitation. So I think, so in 2020, just to cut things short, COVID obviously struck. I had a lot of time on my hands like everyone else. So I started digging into it, discovering that, as you said, there are people who do it as a living. So I signed up with Certified Pros, called back then.
Yeah.
So I signed up to that. I had a couple of gigs on the side while I was still, actually at that point, I started my own practice with a couple of partners. Good experience, but we kind of went our separate ways. And then I went into an office, went back into, full-time 9 to 5, where I realized that the thing I enjoyed the most was setting up Asana for them and onboarding about 65 people. Completely changed the way they worked. It's helped them up until today. They're still using it. And I think it kind of just pushed me into, I love architecture, but I think my passion right now is Asana. And I can actually relate a lot to what I do now to being an architect. I'm still designing. So there's a lot of design element there, designing systems, because buildings are extremely complex systems. And so Asana's got also that element of modularity and building blocks like Legos.
Yeah.
Like rules are part of it, fields are part of it. Now with like bundles on enterprise, I mean, it's insane what you can do. So
it's actually quite complex now. It's really becoming really complex to build anything. And I always explain Asana is made of building blocks. You can arrange them different ways to achieve the same thing, but your solution might not scale. So you need the experience of people like us to find the right way right away.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and working with people, working through their workflows, process mapping. I love diagramming. I love slides. I'm a visual person, obviously, and I visually communicate my designs as an architect. So, and all that presenting experience as well has been very useful for me as well, feeling comfortable speaking to, new clients, getting on a call with 30 strangers and presenting yourself and training them and saying, hello, I'm going to, teach you how to use Asana now, whether you like it or not. So, it is. I think everything is kind of cumulated to this point, and all my, I think, experience with architecture has definitely helped with that as well.
Can you talk about the first gig you did, the first Asana paid gig that you did? How did that feel?
It was just a one-on-one.
Yeah. Did you have the imposter syndrome somehow?
No, because I had the experience of onboarding like my team, and then so I had like 3 sort of experiences of onboarding. Obviously, people that you know and you work with, which is different. But my first gig was just a one-on-one training session with a person that just wanted to know Asana to put it on their CV, I think, because they were applying for a job like that. So I think imposter syndrome kind of kicks in maybe when you go to your first big gig, I think my first basic training was I got a bit nervous because I knew I was going to get like 30 people on the call. And you're going to have a spotlight on you because you're the expert and you got to know everything. And, you don't want like something to come up and you're like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and you actually can't hide. Like everybody's looking at you and you have to speak and you have to stay energized and motivated. That's really hard. No cameras in front of you, obviously. You don't see nobody answering the questions you ask.
It depends. Yeah, that's a funny one as well. I mean, when you get cameras on and when you get someone who's either introducing me in a good way or saying something good about, what we've built together before we show it to everyone else, I think that gives me energy and I mean, it's very rewarding as well. So yeah, when you get that energy in the room and maybe some people are actually engaged and there's cameras on, that definitely works better. I mean, it reflects on us as well. And I mean, I feel way more excited than, cameras off and you're just feel like you're talking to a brick wall. But yeah, no, it depends. It depends. But I think it's really fun. Again, with architecture, you get introduced to a lot of clients, you meet a lot of people. And here, I think I'm meeting a lot more people a lot more frequently. So I think that's great as well. I mean, you're working over a certain amount of period, building workflows, getting to know. And that's another thing I find, I'm getting to know how the world works. You get to know how various companies run things and do things in all sorts of fields. I mean, I haven't had any gigs setting up an architecture office apart from the ones that I set myself from the people I'm working with. So, I mean, obviously engineering and product and graphic design is something in my language, but I've worked with lawyers and investment bankers and all sorts of walks of life that it's very interesting to get a glimpse into how they work.
Aren't you surprised by how broken those companies usually are? Like the workflows, they're so bad, the Excels are so bad, but somehow they still manage to do the work. Isn't that surprising?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of coming frequent. I mean, I asked them, so, have you documented maybe your workflows? I throw up things like SOPs. They're like, what? Standard operating procedures. Maybe you've mapped this out. Oh, no, we know what to do. George does this and then sends it to John and Mary does that. And it's all in our head. It's fine. So yeah, it's amazing how everyone knows exactly what to do, but it's not mapped out at all. So either, they just tell me on the spot and I start diagramming or taking notes but it's amazing once you build it in Asana. And I think for a lot of clients, it's the first time that they visually can see their company. They can visually see their teams. I mean, they had org charts and things like that, but visually see their work structured in teams and portfolios and projects. It's a real eye-opener for them.
And they also see how many steps they have in their workflows, how many approvals they expect, and they realize how complex and broken things have become.
Yeah, and moving things into Asana, what I tell them, and I'm sure you do as well, is it's a great opportunity to fix those things that aren't really working. Anything manual, maybe, and I won't hesitate to recommend, something that just doesn't make sense to me. Just common sense, really. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I will suggest, maybe we could do it this way, or maybe it's faster, and just tweak those rules and workflows in Asana.
It's also funny to see that they usually do not want to list all the steps because they find that very overwhelming. And sometimes you work on a template and they're like, there's too many steps. It's really overwhelming for me. Can we put some in the subtasks somehow to hide the work? And it's funny to see that it's not overwhelming when it sits in their head, but it does when it sits in the Asana project in front of them.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, they need to, I think it's best to face reality. If it's 20 steps, it's 20 steps, and don't start burying it into subtasks, as we know is not the best thing to do. So yeah, I think they need to get granular, and they need to, and if it's 20 steps, that maybe, okay, why don't we make it 10 then if it seems too much? But yeah, they might, have a step in a workflow. It's sent and submitted and approved. Yeah, but how? Like, with what tool? Is it done in Asana? Is it by email? And obviously we want to cut down on emails, but I think when you get granular like that, and they start thinking, how we can set things up smarter.
So you are an independent consultant. You are actually a solutions partner of your own, but you also work with us at i.DO to deploy some clients, and we're working on a very big client at the moment. We're not going to say any names or locations, but I'd like to hear you talk about the deployment. It's a very big one. Can you give us some numbers and just explain the approach you're taking and how things are going?
Yeah, so I actually, before I get into that, I just wanted to say thanks as well, because to you and to i.DO, because you've given me the opportunity to work with you as well, and some amazing clients have come my way. And this one is by far the largest. So they're, I think, at 300 seats right now, and the past week, I don't know if my eyes, I don't know how I look, but I'm kind of shattered this week. The past 2 weeks, I've trained 150 people, which is amazing. I've had like almost back-to-back calls, 2 hours, twice a day. So I'm not on coffee. I'm on boring chamomile and tea, because my voice just has gone completely. Even the last half of the second session, I would just start drying up. So every sentence would be, has anyone got any questions? And you
yes, I can drink. Yeah, doing one training is fun, but doing 12 training in a week it's not fun. It's hard.
And it's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over, slightly tweaked for some departments or some groups. But we've got an amazing super champion with us, so I co-host with them, and that gives me a break as well, about 10-15 minutes throughout the training. But amazing, I mean, really, really cool. And it's amazing to see like how some groups are going back to the engagement, that some have video on, that and I always encourage, just interrupt me. I find the chat or raising hands just distracting for me. I just say, just interrupt me, jump in, don't be shy, because someone else is probably thinking the same thing. What did he say? So yeah, and then you get just everyone on mute, and you're thinking, is anyone with us? But I actually have designed the sessions to be interactive. So like I think like you saw yesterday when you joined. So there are exercises designed in there to kind of test who is actually engaging. So I get everyone to create a project, a sandbox project, to try things out and experiment. And that's all about building confidence and just mess around, click things, don't feel like you're going to break anything. And that's a kind of tricky thing, that when they realize, oh, I got to do something here, so I better start engaging. And you got 20 people on the call, and you just see 5 projects created, and like, okay, I'll give everyone a couple of minutes. You give them a couple of chances, and obviously it's far more interactive like that. Otherwise, they could just be watching a video, and I could just do it once, record it once, and send it to 150 people. But much more fun like this.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on this, because this is something we've discussed quite a lot, which is what's the best way to teach Asana? Do you think we need videos? Do you think we need webinars? Do you think one-on-one is better, or group training is better? Do we need everything and people choose? What's your point on this?
I think a bit of everything definitely helps. I mean, Asana has a vast library. The help button in the lower left of the interface will bring up videos and links to the Asana Academy, which are really helpful. I do recommend these, especially to starters, before we get into like workflow design, things like that. Definitely. Okay, I mean, I don't know if we're going to sound biased, but a solutions partner is the way to go for anyone. Even if you're 5 people, even if you're 500 people, I think we provide incredible value in speeding up the learning curve. The return on your investment is going to be much faster. You're going to get a system that works up and running much more faster than hitting dead ends, hitting your head against the wall, reiterating, understanding the architecture. We have that overall picture, so we can speed that up a lot. And just a parenthesis, this is something that, going back to the forum and why I started posting like that rapidly, was just seeing that people getting stuck with things that I just knew. And I'm like, well, why don't I just replace, they're struggling. And And I found that so rewarding to just get these thank yous back, and oh wow, you saved me so much time. And that's what we do. We save people time by either a guided build. So we help them to build it. And I know we've had a couple of conversations on this, and I don't see it like either route A or route B. I see it, it could work in both ways, which is the train the trainer approach. So we enable them, try and make them as experts as possible, so they can maintain their space after, and they're not entirely reliable on us, the customer. That I mean. And then the other hand, I've had clients who, oh, Richard, we don't have time for training videos and I don't want to know how to build rules and all that. And I don't have time for the forum. Just build it for us. Show us how to use it. And maybe, we give you a call once in a while to make some updates or changes. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I understand that some clients will not have champions. They will not have people who are passionate or excited. And, with Asana, it's like you're designing an intranet. You're designing a system, their own platform where, you just want to build it and show everyone, present it to everyone when it's ready to go, rather than show them what's under the hood. I kind of use the car analogy here that, we design cars essentially, but we don't need, sometimes not everyone's going to be interested in what's under the hood or how every single part of those components, those Legos, or, the engine is put together. They just want a car, and we teach them how to drive it, hopefully not crash it into a wall, and respect it, and, change the tires and the oil once in a while. But yeah, I find I leave it up to the client, and this is something that it's kind of like the first question when I engage with them. Do you have time? Are you passionate about it? They might be passionate about it, but they just don't have time. And there've been cases where we work with champions, and the champions are, the group of people, the core group of people that are going to build Asana. Yes, okay, let's do it. And then you give them homework, maybe build a template, come back to me, we'll look at it. And they're like, I didn't have time because my boss or manager is throwing all this work at me. So it has to start at the top as well, and give everyone the time that's needed.
We recently had a client who hired us to do a deployment. They paid us, and then they never had the time to book the first meeting. So we ended up not doing anything. And it's really frustrating to see that people need help, but they don't even have time to reach out for help and be trained properly.
Yeah. It's time is essential, and again, if they don't have time, I respect that, and I can build things for them. And if it works for them, that's fine. I mean, if everyone's happy at the end of the day, that's what's important, and they got a system that works for them. And I mean, they're over the moon with whatever you build for them. There are companies that still use, going back to what you were saying, like Word documents for forms. I'm like, okay, and what happens if people type it in and they send it via email, and then how do you collect the data? Oh, and then we copy paste it into an Excel sheet. And how many hours do you spend on that? Oh, it takes me about three hours a week, and that's just one thing. And and this is why Asana's narrative is we'll save you 2 days a week, and I truly believe it for some companies how inefficiently they work, and it's not their fault, I guess. We just got dumped an email app and Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and that's what we got. And there's so many tools out there, and I think that's what back in 2017, I thought there must be something better out there, and there was for over 5 years, and I didn't realize. So, so I'm glad to discover that.
What do you think is the key to having a good Asana adoption in a company?
Okay, well, time is key. I think the other thing, you need those champions, you need those drivers, and it's not, obviously it helps when it comes way at the top, like from the CEO or COO or C-level, which is a tricky one, because I find that there are CEOs that might beat the drum and I'll 100%, I'll back you up here. and the words are all there, and they get everyone excited. But then, your question was on adoption, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you roll it out and then it's in place, and I get champions after 2-3 weeks. How's it going? Is everyone okay? And yeah, everything's great, but all our executives or the C-level are not really engaging. They're not replying. They're not checking their inbox. Like, that is one of the most painful things, and something I do encourage all the leaders at any level, managers, to engage, and because they set the precedent, they're setting the example, and if people start understanding, oh, the executives or management isn't really using it, so no, I guess I'm not going to take this too seriously, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and I think just getting people excited about it. I try and relate Asana like tasks to emails. Like, instead of writing an email, you can just quickly assign a task, assign a person, add a due date, and boom, it's on their to-do list. You can follow up, you can action it a lot easier. I compare projects maybe to Google Sheets or Excel sheets. So, but they're a lot more clever. They're, Excel sheets on steroids, basically. Collaborators to CCs on email. So I try and use a language that, they can relate to, and how they do it today and how they can do it a lot more faster and productive in Asana. So I think there's a bit of psychology involved in getting people excited and enthusiastic about it, because change is hard. Some people are just allergic to change. They don't. I like the tools I use today. I don't want to change anything, and I think that needs some encouragement, general encouragement, but strict conventions in place by management. I think we've seen the best clients, the most successful clients, are successfully using Asana, are the ones that cut down internal email, and they put strict rules in place.
Yeah.
No more internal email, guys. Everything in Asana, and okay, maybe Teams for that casual chat.
I'd like to go back on the forum topic. You said something interesting. You said, I always find workarounds. And I feel like I am the same way. I always find workarounds, and I'm okay if something doesn't exist. But the forum is filled with people that don't think this way. And they don't like workarounds, and they want the tool to be exactly the way they need the tool to be. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, again, I think there needs to be maybe a little bit of patience, because maybe that feature is just around the corner. I know there's certain hot topics in the forum with a lot of votes that aren't being implemented and may never get implemented. Like, I could never see Asana changing their stance on multiple assignees on a task. I personally find it logical. I can understand a lot of people don't, and there are use cases, but there is a workaround. There's ways of getting around things. 9 out of 10, I would say. So either natively in Asana, or with a third-party app, like Plosana does some amazing things, or with Zapier, Make. And I understand, obviously, third-party solutions isn't an option for some people, but I don't think there's much value in someone going on the forum and just providing negative energy and not really something that's going to help anyone or provide any value. I'm up for expression, obviously, and venting. That's fine, but I think we need to work with what we've got. I think Asana's an amazing tool, but it's just going to get better and better. I think we've seen over the past year or two, just amazing ramp up in features getting released, a lot more frequently. So, yeah, just a bit of patience. I'm sure we'll get what we want sooner or later.
Yeah, I guess we all want new features to be released, but at the same time, you don't want the tool to become too hard to use, harder to adopt, or becoming too complex.
Yeah, I think that's key, and I respect the product team for that. I know options isn't a thing, to give people too many options.
Yeah.
And I think, it keeping it intuitive. And I mean, I'm entirely self-taught. I didn't even watch a single training video. I discovered those existed much later. But that means that anyone can pick it up. It's just so intuitive, well designed, well crafted as a product that it should stay like that. I think in certain aspects.
Yeah, that's why the PMs at Asana have a super hard job to do. They have to keep things simple and intuitive while making sure that the product still evolves. Can you tell me about the importance of content? You create a lot of content, you help on the forum. Why and how does that work with the way you find clients? Do you get clients from the forum as well?
Not so much. And I mean, it's great if someone does approach me, and it's funny as well, because I haven't realized that. I guess people start to know me. They get to know you, but you don't realize, and it's strange. Like, I get some messages, or they find me on LinkedIn. Hey, I saw you on the forum. Maybe we can dig deeper into something. But no, I think the forum, my contribution to the forum is really just helping people. And if that comes with some credibility, or it looks like I came out of nowhere, as you said, that's great. I think it's just about giving back. And I think I guess maybe you're referring to the custom fields templates that I released in the summer. That was just something that I had in my own personal library that I would install into clients' spaces just to get them set up quicker, so we don't have to build a status field every time. And I had them ready. So I thought, well, why don't I just share these with everyone? Maybe they're useful to other people as well. So
where do you draw the line between things you offer online and things people should pay you for?
I think if it's something that I've built, I mean, like the custom fields template, it doesn't cost me anything to just have them open out there. So I just start charging for my time. If you're going to be taking up my time, obviously not from the start. I'm quite generous. I'm generally generous, I think, as a person, but I'm generous with my time, at least for someone to get to know you, to get to know each other. So I have free, half-hour calls to, introduction calls, discovery calls, consulting on what package to get, what, I don't know, what Asana tier to choose. So I'll help them with that. And if that leads to a partnership or a collaboration, that's great.
Cool. What do you think about the latest features that were released last year?
I think we've had some pretty amazing things. I think since last year, if we take it back, I think starting from like time tracking, I think obviously the one that stood out for me the most was the saved view tabs, which
Yes.
I think I've got a elaborate post on the forum. I start writing these posts and then they end up being like these huge scrollers. I'm like, oh, who's going to read this? But anyway, I guess people find it.
Formulas as well. You created a post about formulas.
And formulas, yeah, of course. So yeah, formulas was a big one as well. But yeah, save tab views, that's just put everything, it's just changed how I look at structuring projects. Even instead of using sections, I start using tabs now.
Yeah.
There's a limit to 12, but it's usually, within, you can work within that limit quite easily. But yeah, some amazing things. And we know a couple of things that are coming this year as well, which I'm really looking forward to, that we obviously can't talk about. But yeah, really, really exciting things.
What about the new Asana plans, tiers?
Yeah, that's another post that I had to, I felt I had to express myself there. Well, one post was just helpful, just, making clear to people what we're getting, what we're maybe losing or being limited to. And I personally, and I had actually an interesting chat with the product team on this regarding portfolios and the limit on portfolios to 20 for anyone who's on business today is going to be on advanced. And I just felt that limitation along with the rules, the 25,000 rules, actions for business, I think is fine. I think we kind of run the numbers and that seems fairly reasonable. Unlike the 250 rules that Premium is going to be having on the starter tier. So I think those limitations for me aren't the best way of getting people to upgrade. I think if you're trying to get them to upgrade to Enterprise, Enterprise has some amazing features that, I mean, bundles just alone is enough for someone to take Enterprise, to consider upgrading to Enterprise. So I wouldn't be enforcing limits, but looking at the competitors, I think Monday has very similar limitations as well. So I can understand why Asana may have chosen that. I understand these choices are not probably done by the product team and more on the financial side of things. But yeah, I think I was kind of joking with the product team as well. The 20 portfolios, I told them, surely that's a typo. Surely you forgot a zero on the end. That should be 200, right? But unfortunately not. So again, it has to make you think about things as well. Maybe you're using portfolios instead of teams. So a solution is teams are infinite. You can have as many teams you want. So you can use teams to group projects as like in folders and use portfolios for maybe a theme of various projects. And for most people, maybe 20 portfolios is fine. But I thought I'd put a poll on the forum as well to see what people thought about that as well. And yeah, it seems like people aren't getting too greedy. They're like, okay, yeah, up to 100 is good. But yeah, not over 100. That's fine.
Yeah. We are recording in January 2023, and I think for now the limits are soft. That means you can still...
this year, Bastian.
2024, sorry. The limits are actually soft limits, so you can have more than 20 portfolios for now, and we'll see how things play out when they start enforcing the limits.
That's right, yeah.
I'd like to finish on productivity tricks. Do you have any good tricks? How do you manage your My Task View as well? This is something I'd like to know. And are you an inbox zero guy?
I am becoming an inbox zero guy, at least for my inbox, because as like you probably, I'm in a lot of Asana instances. So I've got 20, 30 inboxes or something like that.
I have more than 100 myself. I counted recently.
So going into each of those inboxes and clearing those out is a bit tricky, but if I'm there, yeah, I'll do it. Inbox zero is a great way of, I think, relieving stress and making sure that you've actually gone through everything and you haven't missed anything. But no, I keep my tasks pretty simple. I kind of switch between list and the calendar weekly view. I find that quite intuitive, actually. It kind of looks like because I look at Outlook and I see all my meetings, and then I look at my tasks in Asana in the same sort of format. So I find that one quite useful. I don't get too elaborate with custom sections and things like that. But what I definitely do is, productivity-wise, is automations. When rules came into Asana, I went berserk. I just went, oh, here we go. I was just automating everything. Yes. So, and anything that rules can't do, obviously, Flowsana can supercharge that. Zapier, I've used Zapier and Make. I connect it with my Calendly. So every session comes into my sessions project, and it's tagged by session type because I've got a few questions in Calendly, and those questions map into fields into Asana. So that saves me a bunch of time. Zapier might be a bit pricey for some, but it's worth the cost of saving me. I just calculated how much time I'm clicking and filling this out every time. I just get the duration and the hours and the session type, and then I got ready statistics in my dashboard. So that's pretty cool.
Cool, thank you. Did we cover everything? Do you want to add anything?
You mentioned something about F1 earlier on.
Yes.
And I guess with the car analogy, and yeah, I like speed. Anything that is fast, and F1, talking about Formula One as well, which is getting really big in the US over the past couple of years. I don't really support any driver team, in case anyone's wondering, but I usually go for the underdog, and I just enjoy a good race. But and hopefully next year we'll have maybe a different winner every race, rather than Max winning 9 out of 10 races. But I think with what I like with Asana is the speed that you can also build something. I just found, the construction industry and architecture as well, from the time from your first sketch of the building to you actually walk in the actual built thing could be like 5 years. And I just found that like excruciatingly long sometimes, that I find that you can build something in Asana so much faster than even, and I know you're an IT guy, and I have nothing against IT guys, but I've been on calls with IT guys that, tell me, oh yeah, it took us about 2-3 months to build this workflow, for a workflow that I tell them I could probably do in Asana in half an hour, like no joke. And they're building it on other elaborate platforms as well. So yeah, speed, I think, and the return, and the return and the reward as well that I get, and you get clients over the moon with what you produce, and how you engage with them, how you empower them, and how you just make them think differently, is something I love about this job, what I'm doing right now.
In the Asana consulting space, are you the underdog?
I don't know. I have no idea. You tell me.
I think you're too good now to be the underdog. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bastian. Yeah, this is great. Thanks for this.